Hi, I'm Brett Ullman, and welcome to Parenting Navigating Everything, the channel where we equip and empower you as a parent to navigate all aspects of parenting in this modern culture we live in today. Now, this seems to be a very common question I get as I travel and speak. Parents ask me, when should my kids get a cell phone? Now, this is a question of age that they're talking about. I also think we need to address another question, which is, when are my children ready to get a cell phone? They're kind of almost the same question, but a little different. Age is part of it, but they're being ready and responsible enough to get a phone is almost more important than just some arbitrary age. So I polled parents in social media asking a very simple question: when did you or when do you think your kids will get a cell phone? And I was floored by the number of people who said never. One person said 30, others said 20. I have to laugh when people say things like 20 or 30. At 16, you can drive, and then a few years later, you can drink, move out, vote, go to college, university out on your own. But as some parents, they're saying to you, you can't have a phone. I think we say this as a bit of a joke, but do our kids know this? I mean, it's always funny when parents who have phones are telling their kids that they will never, ever get a cell phone. It's just kind of this weird disconnect. So what do statistics say? One study says that 95% of teens have a smartphone. I'll put these studies down at the bottom. Another study by the Kaiser Foundation says most teens, so 85% of those 14 to 17 have cell phones. So do 69% of 11 to 14-year-olds and 31% of kids aged 8 to 10, which just floors me. Now, this study was done a number of years ago, and I think there's actually more kids with phones these days. Another study says these days, the average age when kids get their first smartphone is around 10 years of age, according to a Calgary-based parenting expert. 10 years of age. But exposure to mobile devices often begins at a much younger age. It's becoming increasingly common to see toddlers wielding smartphones and strollers, and preschoolers just kind of zoned out in front of their iPads at restaurants. Great quote from today's parent. So let's just go through some thoughts about getting a smartphone. Number one, all of our kids will get a phone at some point in their life. As a parent, I would let this be known in all conversations with kids about when they might get a phone. Stop saying even jokingly that your kids will never get a phone. They all will. And yes, there's a tiny percentage of even adults who don't have a smartphone, but most people do. Number two, tablets are basically phones. There is this large disconnect I hear from parents who say their kids will never get a phone, but then they have an iPad. It's the same. The only difference is the ability to actually physically call someone, which, by the way, students rarely ever even do. Number three, I think that when we hear statistics of kids getting phones below grade 6, I think we're really dealing with a lot of fear-based parenting. They say statements like, well, what if I need to get hold of them? There is no need to get hold of young kids. You can call the school if you need to, and if you really want to be able to call them, your kids can get the cheapest, oldest flip phone. There's no need for a smartphone that's $1,000 with internet on it. Just a cheap phone with phone capabilities. And I think that if you want that, do that. Number four, are they mature enough to have a smartphone? Like, seriously, smartphones have access to everything in the world. All the apps, social media, sexting abilities, ability to send naked photos, viewing pornography, ability to be bullied and to bully. If you're going to get your kid a smartphone, there needs to be a lot of teaching around these conversations. We usually call this digital citizenship. Common Sense Media have a really good online lesson on this, and I'll put the link down in the description below. Number five, I think we should address sleep issues. You know, people staying up late on their phones. Adults, we are no different than students on this. Maybe we should have rules, no phones in bedrooms, or turn off the internet at a certain time. Number six, for older kids, texting and driving. We need to talk about this. You know, when your kids start to drive, you can turn on this do not disturb while driving in the settings of an iPhone, and it's a good thing for all of us to do. Number seven, this is the new coming of age ritual. It's a big deal for kids, and we might not think it's important for kids to have a phone, but they might feel differently. Number eight, we need to realize that as adults, that kids communicate digitally today more than face-to-face. So if your kid does not have a phone, at a certain age, they will be left out of conversations. Number nine, when your kids say in grade 8 that they are the only one in their class without a cell phone, they might be right, or one of just a few kids who do not. So let's go back to the original question, what age? Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, says his kids waited until high school. In our house, we were a little earlier than that, not much though. My daughter bought by herself her first cell phone in the last few months of grade 8. My son was similar, grade 8, but at the beginning of the year. He waited until I upgraded my phone and then took my older phone. I would say a good age is somewhere around grade 8 to me. Kids are then old enough to take some personal, more responsibility for having a smartphone. And I know people will have lots of differing thoughts on this. Love to hear what you do in your home. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.